Morning and a good afternoon and good evening, depending on where people are joining in from. This is Avinash over here. I am the CEO of Tholons, and I would like to introduce two of the eminent speakers today. Fabrizio Opertti, he is the Senior Integration and Trade Specialist with Inter-American Development Bank. I've had the privilege of working with Fabrizio across the region, in quite a few countries in South America and Latin America, and he has great experience in terms of what the services industry is in these countries and how it's evolving. The other speaker is Mario Tucci. He is the Senior Global Business Consultant. Prior to this, he was the one leading the efforts of Tata TCS in Latin America, and has great experience, with clients from selling to the clients, and he brings in a significant amount of experience of doing and selling outsourcing stuff in the region as well as to clients outside of the region as well. So without much delay, let me get on to slide number 2 and introduce you to the study. We have been doing this annual study and research on locations for the last 5 years, along with our partners, Global Services. In 2006, that was the first year where we said, in addition to the focus on countries, we said, well, we need to bring the focus down at the city level, because when clients are looking for locations to be able to put their offices, to put their operations, they're looking for things that are very much on what kind of scale they can scale up to, what skills are available, what cost, what is the risk profile of that location, what's the support that they get from the local government in that city. And so we brought the focus down to the city. In 2007, we looked at the centers of excellence among those cities, be it for finance and accounting or engineering services or for R&D or for IT. In 2008, essentially we looked at how regions play a role in addition to the cities itself. In 2009, we introduced and looked at the concept of city clusters. For example, when you look at some of the emerged cities, for example, New Delhi in India, it really is a cluster of cities that exist in 3 different states. Noida, for example, in a different state, and Gurgaon as well. So we have that NCR. A similar concept you find in Manila, where the Manila NCR has a lot of cities, like, for example, Quezon City itself, Makati, Manila. There are loads of them out there. In terms of the Malaysia, for example, you find Kuala Lumpur, and then you find the Cyber there as well. So we looked at some of these concepts about the city clusters. In 2010, which is a study that will be released in November, we are looking at answering something which has been very important to clients, is which locations should I select beyond what the analysis shows, because they want to make sure that when they go to a certain city, that city is their answer today, and hopefully it is an answer 5 years from now. So it is the ability of a city to scale and sustain over the long term that has emerged as the most significant criteria for clients to select a certain city. So we have done, for all the cities that you will see this year in the top 100, we have a point of scale resistance index, which basically tells what is the city's potential to scale and sustain. And I think that is probably one factor that will dictate and will occupy the mind share of the clients as we see in the future. I think coming to slide number 3, so let's look at some of the top, slide number 4, let's look at some of the cities that are in the top 100 list. Now, if you look at it, our studies in the last 4 years focused on the top 50 emerging cities. we had, in addition to the emerging cities, we also had cities which were emerged, that they were mature, established destinations. In 2009, we had 8 emerged cities, and they were cities which were on Tholons' radar as well. In 2010, because what we see is a significant amount of competition among the different cities. Cities have put in a significant amount of effort to really make a play in the services economy. So the cities that were there in the top 50 towards the 50 and going into the 60s as well, we felt were very, very close to being a very, very close competitors. So we have expanded the list to top 100, and we see going further that we'll be covering the top 100 cities essentially. And so there are, if you see the slide number 4, you see the 2007, 8, and 9 ranking. You don't see anything on 2010. So some of the cities that you probably see, which is on Tholons' radar, it's quite possible that in 2010, some of those cities are actually on the top 100. In fact, a lot of them are on top 100, and they have a ranking. If you look at the Latin America region, we really look at it as 2 different regions, the Central America and the South America, and which in our study we have covered in the top 100 about 15 countries and 30 cities in 2010 for the study. Some of the ones that are star players in this region, Buenos Aires, Argentina, has really moved up extremely well from 2007, from an emerging 14 to an emerging 6 in 2009. If you look at Santiago in Chile, it is one of the most promising locations for KPO and ITO. Now, Chile, with a population of about 16 million people, cannot obviously afford the same scale as Argentina does, and they have really focused quite a bit on KPO and ITO, and they have very good skilled people to be able to deliver that. The question for Santiago is, can they train and can they make more skilled people available in Chile to be able to take certain scalable work in what we commonly call as BPO. Sao Paulo in Brazil, obviously Brazil has the largest scale in the region, and Sao Paulo is a very favorite destination for clients because of the domestic market, and it's ranked number 8, just behind Buenos Aires. Look at San Jose, and it has been one of the most steady climbers in Costa Rica since 2007, ranking of 29, has jumped up 9 spots in 2009 to rank 20, and is considered a significant ITO destination for near shore. And as we see, we'll see in the future slides, there is a very clear indication of the region being a favorite of clients at this point, because we've seen an increasing trend in the last couple of years of clients preferring a nearshore destination even at a higher cost than some of the farshore destinations. Going to slide number 5, you see a lot of cities which are on the Tholons radar, and a significant number of these cities you will see in 2010 ranking in the top 100. But if you look at Peru and Lima, it's become a very favorite city of clients right now in terms of the Spanish nearshore cost perspective. There are quite a few cities in Colombia that have done extremely well in 2010. If you look at Colombia, I think there's a significant perception in the client side, and there has been a tremendous, and I would actually say tremendous, improvement of what Colombia has been able to do in the last 8 years, coming in from a country that was a high risk to a country that I would actually say is no more risk than any other country in that region. For example, including Argentina, Chile, and Peru. That is not a consideration at this point from our perspective. I know that clients do have a perception, but from our perspective, that should not be a consideration at all. And I think so the cities in Colombia now compete very, very favorably. Moving on to slide 6, in terms of the regional outsourcing dynamics, I will hand it over to Mario to talk about the region itself, because he has tremendous experience, real-time experience, real-life experience of working in that region. Mario?
Thank you, Avinash. So good morning, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to the call. It's very relevant to talk about Latin America, and I believe that it's not just a location. It could be also an inspirational position for any company, either a service provider or a customer. But obviously, nobody will take a dip unless it's a cost-effective solution. So the graph here represents the gap between GDPs per capita in different parts of the world. As you can see, Latin America is still not catching up in inflation with regards to total cost. So that means that you can get a very cost-effective solution in Latin America. But also, as you evaluate this, you will discover that it's not just cost what matters. And also, countries are doing what they are doing in terms of reducing the total cost of the operation. So you go to Mexico, and Mexico has in ProSoft a very good program that they will lower your cost because they are going to give you incentives. You go to Uruguay, tiny Uruguay, and then you have all these free trade zones at 0% tax. You go to Colombia, and Colombia will promote your installation, giving you exemptions in taxes and so on. So it's not just the perceived cost, but also you should go and ask questions. Most governments have very aggressive promotional agencies, and they are going to welcome you, as you probably would not expect, to install your companies and your services down there. But also compare the cost of travel, the cost of cultural translations, the cost of moving people into that region, and you're going to also see a very welcoming news, because the total cost of doing services in Latin America is going to show up very, very, very nice if you add all these issues. The dollar has been an issue in Latin America. You need to be careful with regards to dollar. Dollar is losing ground, as it's losing ground in many other parts of the world. But we still believe that Latin America will, last year was in particular a complicated year with regards to dollars. This year is a little bit more stable, and probably you will not see high jumps in Latin America compared to that. Avinash, back to you.
Right, Mario. I think if you can talk about in slide 8, Mario, about the specific distinct markets that the region is able to address in terms of the U.S. and the European market and the domestic market.
So this is a very concise slide that you have in front of you. As you can see, there is an obvious geographic position for Latin America. If you're a U.S. company or if you're a global company, Spanish-speaking population is all over the place right now. 20% of the consumers in the U.S., many in Europe, obviously. So there is an obvious connection. It's interesting to see, for example, Spanish services still deliver from Hungary, from locations that you will never expect. So I believe that while Latin America, just looking at the map, gives you an obvious reason why to do business in Latin America, it's not obvious, in particular to American customers, that may be the good idea. So if you're planning to serve the Spanish-speaking market, Latin America is there. Of course, Brazil does Portuguese, and that will also give you a chance into some parts of Africa and Europe as well. the time zone issue, Latin America is very well positioned to manage in more or less the same